The director, Lance Bangs. And two of the band members from Slim, Tom Brashear and David Powell.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming out.
So I am going to get off of the stage and run around like a chicken with his head cut off, like trying to get you a microphone. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand and I will try to get to you quickly. Okay, oh good, one in the front.
Of all the bands you've been exposed to, why Slint?
I was in Athens, Georgia at that time, and I was still a teenager when that record came out, and it was a remarkably supportive, encouraging, great, wild place to live and be exposed to all kinds of music. But I happened to travel out of there to Asheville, North Carolina with a band that I was traveling with at the time, and walked in and heard Spiderland playing over the PA at this like all-ages club there called Squash Pile. And it just made such an immediate impression that it didn't sound like other music that was circulating at the time that I'd heard, at least at that point in my life, where it felt like it had way more thought and presence and atmosphere and space to it. It felt way more like films in a way. And so it really struck me and made me really curious, and then right away was asking the people at that venue, like, you know, what's this record, what's this band? And they were like, oh my God, isn't it great? But like, there's no name on the front of the record, and we just bought it because it was on Touch and Go, and we kind of, you know, trusted by everything that's coming out by that label. And they had tried to find out about booking the band and had been told that like the record was all that existed. The band had already broken up before it came out. They weren't touring, they weren't playing live shows. And that just made it such an instant kind of mystery to me, and was curious about like who could have made this thing and then disappeared, or why weren't they, you know, still in existence once this thing was out there. That it really just struck me, and I started you know, doing everything I could to try and ask people in other bands who were traveling around what they had heard about these guys, or drive up to Louisville with friends from Athens to go try and explore and track these guys down. So yeah, that record more than others at that time just kind of caught my attention and really triggered my imagination.
I just wanted to say it was a wonderful film, and I wanted to let you guys know that the only time I've ever been arrested in my life and put in jail was for stealing cassette tapes to have my friend tape Spiderland for me. So,
Which taping stuff for people is stealing also. I'm kidding, but it is.
Hey, I have a quick question for the Slint guys. You guys have been given like a ton of press, and people have been really asking you to tell your story quite a bit. How does it feel to reflect on everything, especially after you guys left the project, like even before the record came out?
I mean, it's super weird. I mean, can you imagine, like, it just like having to think about this one time period so much. And, I mean, it's really cool. Yeah, it's just really surreal for sure. I don't know what we did right, honestly.
I said it to somebody in Louisville when they were, I don't know, they made a comment about some of the crazy stories and whatnot, and I said, well, I had to remember that, you know, we were teenagers, you know, so I felt better about a lot of it when I thought about that.
That doesn't excuse what you did.
I didn't talk about what I did, but what Britt did.
Don't throw him under the bus.
They saw the movie.
Anybody else who's got a question?
Yeah. Whoa. Okay.
So the movie makes a really big point out of pointing out how serious, how unserious you guys were, like how goofy you're being all the time. That's a big thing. But I remember when I first got that album in my senior year in high school, I was like, this is so fucking serious. This is so amazing. This is like next level rock music. That kind of reaction. But then I remember playing for some people who were into like I don't know, like Smashing Pumpkins or something at the time, and they were like, oh, this is emo. But whatever emo meant in the 90s was a different thing. Like, it seemed super, super serious to me, and I like that about it, but it's funny that you guys are being so silly. So what was up with that?
We're just mentally handicapped. I mean, but it's true. Like, I think people think that we're, these dark, brooding musicians that made this, and yeah, I guess we were on some level, but not really when we're together.
I think it would have been pretty messed up to be as serious as all that is all the time. You know what I mean? Like if we were practicing for 3 or 4 hours a night, 5 nights a week, and all we did was stare at each other and stuff. It would have been bad. So I'm sure
I stared at you a lot, though.
I know, and I liked it.
I do think as much as these guys had a great energy and dynamic and humor among themselves, like growing up, I think that at that moment of when they were writing that particular material that was on Spiderland, that both Britt and Brian had sort of like left Louisville for the first time and were not surrounded by the kids that had all the same in-jokes and camaraderie that they had, and they were feeling maybe a bit alienated or isolated once they were in Evanston, and realizing like, oh man, we're not the same as everyone else running around this campus, and that, you know, and then sort of like late night writing in the notebooks and stuff, that those lyrics started coming out of, that I think it was a different vibe or sensibility for them being away from Louisville and seeing that the rest of the world wasn't really maybe comfortable for them. I don't know, I think there's some of that going on with that material.
Yeah, and I think we're all chronically uncomfortable, basically. So, but yeah, I went to school then too, and I can relate to what you were just saying. Yeah, so.
We got a question back here.
Hey, I feel like I saw you play maybe like 9 years ago, 2005, and I see that you're touring again this year. What made you get back together and tour back then and 9 years later?
We're broke. Sorry, I didn't mean to demean your question. It's kind of true though.
I read on some blogs that there's some unreleased Spiderland tracks, or post-Spiderland tracks, City Blues 1, 2, and 3. Do you guys know about that?
Where did you hear about this?
I think it was Todd. It was Todd's tracks.
Yeah, I know that voice. I think that's a plant, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that was one of Britt's songs, I think.
I thought it was called Walking in Manhattan.
That was one of them too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think those were songs from when Britt talks about all those tapes of riffs he has. Those are some of the titles from those.
I do want to say, as to the movie, I wasn't going to come tonight because I was just going to stay home. But then, I thought I'd come. I'm so glad I did because I grew up in Louisville a couple of years, well, probably about 5 or 6 years, after you guys. And so your times were not mine, but you encompassed what it was like to be in Louisville perfectly. So sounds like you're not from Louisville. You did a great job, and so thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think Lance has a real love for Louisville. I mean, you were at the show last night, surrounded by the hardcore, like old punk rednecks, and you were having a blast. It's not easy.
Yeah, they played a show at like 150 person, tiny hall in a neighborhood in Louisville called Portland. That was basically most of the crowd was people that had, been part of the sort of Malignant Growth, Maurice type of crowd of bands, and a lot of the people that we hear crazy stories about in the film were popping up there, and it felt great.
Hi, this is for the Slim guys. Just wondering if you guys have had a chance to hear the remasters and what you think.
Never heard of it. No, we were all involved in the remastering, and Bob Western, who's here tonight, totally killed it, I thought.
Yeah. I think it sounds great. I don't know, in the whole scheme of things, Bob would probably disagree with us maybe in some ways, but he got off fairly easy as far as how much back and forth there was, and there's a pretty good chance that we could remaster that. Let's just say we had millions of dollars, we would just remaster it forever and never and be satisfied with it. So luckily, that wasn't the case. So.
There was definitely, while I was in town, people were taking test pressings from versions of the remaster, going to one guy's house, setting it up on their turntable and stereo, all kind of looking at it, shaking their heads, bringing a different guy's stereo and turntable, setting it up. Don't make it sound too easy. But yeah, he did a tremendous job, and it sounds remarkable. And that came out yesterday, if anyone's curious to hear it.
Hey,